Alright, so boom, wagwan, bruv. I'm about to teach you a lot about some personal finance. So obviously, you know, the goal on this channel is to provide you with a daily dose of edutainment. Make sure that you are laughing, that you are entertained, but most importantly, that you are learning something that you can apply to your own personal life and make it better. So obviously on this channel, I'll talk about addiction, specifically weed, but I've also made it a goal on this channel to also speak on the subject of personal finance and getting your money up, you know? And trying to make sure that we all get rich together, you know what I'm saying?
Can't believe I made it. It's my first time getting money. Where's my money? It's right here. Right there. Y'all can't see me. We getting rich. Hard body youngins. We getting rich together. Yeah. We getting rich together. Yeah, I got my 4K tray.
Just when you have money, at least an abundance of money, it gives you a sense of comfort. Like, you know, you're good. Like, you don't have to stress about every little nickel and dime. Like, if you can get to the point where you're minimizing your expenses and you're learning strategies to increase your income and eliminate debt, bad debt, like credit card debt, like consumer debt, then you're good to go, right? So I got another video for y'all, courtesy of Matt D'Avella, Simple Steps to Financial Freedom. Matt D'Avella is the GOAT for a lot of these like minimalism stuff. So I myself am frugal man at heart.
We didn't go on fancy dates and fancy dinners with people and family and birthdays.
Date night was at home.
Date night was at the crib. People were looking at us as if we were un-American. I don't have the money to be going on these steak dinners and out to Miyabi's and out to your stupid birthday. It's not stupid. I was just mad because I could not go. You know why? Because I couldn't afford it. I got bills, I got credit cards, I got a car note.
I have an every dollar app for a reason, you know? I don't agree with everything from Dave Ramsey, but the principle of money and building wealth, he has a pretty good foundation of that. So let's get into it. No long talk, all facts, no cap. Let's see what he has to say, and I'll give my expertise commentary.
You may have heard that money doesn't buy happiness, and the person that told you that probably had a lot of money. But they aren't exactly wrong. I think what's closer to the truth is that having money is not everything. Not having it is. Kanye West said that. And while I don't always take financial advice from rappers, Kanye's got a pretty good point. When you don't have money, it becomes the source of a lot of pain, frustration, and anger. It consumes your life and becomes the lens with which you see the world. Hey, how much did that cost? Oh, that must have been expensive. Hey, I think you owe me 20 bucks. You can pay me later. That's Venmo? When we don't...
My, just a quick thing about like lending money or borrowing money. My policy essentially is I only give out money that I'm willing to lose. Like if someone asks me for money, I'm like, they ask me for $50 and I can only afford to give them 30, I give them 30. But I give it to them without the expectation of them giving it back to me, so that there's no like strain on the relationship, right? So if you give it to me, it's cool, but if you don't give it to me, it's cool too, right? So anytime you lend money, just put it in your mind like, yo, I'm gonna give him or her this money without the expectation that they'll pay me back. And with that, you will not be stressed to chase after them, and they won't like try and dodge you if for whatever reason they can't pay you. So that's just my mindset towards it.
Have it, every problem seems to revolve around money. And while being rich won't fix every problem in your life, stacking up some money seems like a worthwhile pursuit. When you become financially free, you will no longer make every decision solely based on money. You don't take the job just because it pays better.
Nice.
You don't have to look at the price of organic groceries to make sure you can afford them. Hell, you can take Uber Black to the airport every once in a while. Imagine being in a place where you never had to worry about money again. And maybe not even that far. Imagine a place where money wasn't the major stressor in your life and on your relationships. The steps to get there are simple, but it's not going to happen overnight. So let's get started. Step 1, create an emergency fund.
I know, like growing up, like when I was trying to play like AAU basketball, get a basketball scholarship, I realized that it was a kind of a strain on my parents to pay for the uniforms or pay for like the travel. Like I live in Canada, right? So sometimes we would go to the States to play basketball, and obviously Canadian currency to American currency is less. So I didn't know, like just having enough money, at least for yourself and for your family, just so that you're comfortable, like safety blanket, reduces the stress multiple fold.
Create an emergency fund. Save $1,000 and put it into an emergency fund that you'll only use in dire circumstances. I remember reading a story from Dave Ramsey from someone who literally put their emergency fund inside a frame with the words, break glass in case of emergency. Hold up though. Emergencies don't include beer money, vacations, or even an engagement ring. It's a minimalist ring. This money should only be used if and when shit hits the fan. When your car breaks down, when you need to replace your water heater. Basically, when your life would otherwise become completely derailed, that's when you go to the emergency fund. Why create an emergency fund? Because everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And instead of borrowing money from your family again or pulling out your credit card, pushing yourself further into debt, you'll have something to fall back on.
Shout out to Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong if given opportunity. So Murphy's Law is an incredible, essential planning tool to just like give yourself like a leg to stand on in case things go astray.
The great thing about the emergency fund is that it starts to give you that feeling of financial freedom. For the first time maybe in your adult life, you have some room to breathe. This step is the quickest way to finally start to gain some control back in your life. Step 2. Pay off your debt. About 80% of American adults are in debt, and we've just accepted this as the status quo. Maybe we bought shit we didn't need to furnish an apartment that we couldn't afford, or purchased a new car when we could have bought used. For me, one of the biggest problems with debt is that it restricts your monthly income. So when you're paying $500 to $700, even more on your mortgage, your student loans, your car payment, it severely restricts the amount of money you can save. The other thing I'll say is that you're going to be saving thousands of dollars in interest if you're able to pay off your loans quicker. Forget about cutting back on your daily lattes. This is where you're going to take the biggest step towards financial freedom. Let's say you have $100,000 in student loans at 5% interest for a 20-year term. If you only pay the minimum for the entire period of the loan, you'll end up giving the bank over $158,000. This kind of feels like an emergency.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to pay off your debt early? There are a couple takes on how to do this. You could tackle the high interest loans first. Each loan is a different amount with a different interest rate. By the numbers, the smartest decision is to attack the highest interest rate first, then take them out one by one. Another option is called the debt snowball. It takes into account human behavior. By tackling the smallest loan first, we're able to knock it out quicker, which helps build momentum and motivates us to pay off other loans.
Facts.
So when I first got really serious about paying off my debt early, I brought everything and organized it into a spreadsheet like this, and I would log in a couple times a week. Sometimes I would log in every single day and just visualize what it would be like to pay off some of these loans.
Like, honestly, ask yourself, like, do you know exactly how much debt you have? For a period of time, I had no idea. I just knew I had money I owed. Like even my student loan debts, I had no idea. I'm like, I'm sure I owe like 10,000 something, 10,000 or more, right? And then when I actually logged into like the OSAP account, OSAP is like the equivalent of FAFSA in the States. I realized that at the time I owed like 17,500. Like obviously it's not a lot compared to a lot of people, but like at least having knowledge of the number that you owe, the number that you are working towards like clearing, is crucial. Now I only owe about like 2,000 or so, so making progress.
And I would just delete them one by one, like a madman, like somebody who's completely delusional. And I would keep an eye on my monthly payments because I knew that if I could get them low enough, then I'd be able to move out of my parents' house. So this is what drove me. I started to have hope again. I started to feel like there was a light at the end of the tunnel and I would actually eventually be able to pay all this off. Step 3, create a runway. What would it feel like to have 6 to 12 months worth of expenses in your bank account at all times? Imagine the kind of freedom and stability you'd have, knowing that if you ever got injured, lost your job, or you couldn't find any more clients, that you'd be taken care of for the foreseeable future. This is why having runway is so important. Open up a spreadsheet and take account of all your monthly expenses. Rent, groceries, internet, insurance, Netflix, your phone bill, etc. So pulling all this information into my spreadsheet was an amazing way for me to start to see what's the absolute minimum that I needed to survive on. And as a freelance filmmaker with my income varying widely, this was a really powerful number to have. Okay, now for some tough math. Multiply that number by 6 months to get your first target runway goal. The next goal after that would be to get 12 months of runway. This number now becomes your baseline. It's like an extended emergency fund. Except I wouldn't put $22,000 in a frame above your bed. I think the bank might be a little bit safer.
You know, the way he put it, right, is also pretty important if you're trying to quit your job, right? Let's say you've been working on your side hustle for a little while, or you're tired of the job, right? Save X amount that gives you that 6 to 12 month room to go hard at your YouTube, go hard on your drop shipping if that's what you do, go hard on your business, go hard on your rap career, but use the job that you hate. We all gotta do what we don't want to do. Use the job that you hate to fund and give you some breathing room to do your actual thing, right? But like, because I thought about it in the past, but like quitting your job just to focus on the business or focus on your rap career, which isn't making you enough money, is not the best it's not the best approach, right? Do the job either part-time or full-time for as long as you can, and use that to fund your own shit. Straight up. All facts, no cap.
Retirement fund. Retirement funds are one of those things that you know you should do, but you haven't done yet. But eventually you'll get to it, but you probably never will. Retirement funds are those things that your friends talk about sometimes, and whenever they do, you just smile and nod. But really, you're thinking, "Fuck you, Brian. You're a piece of shit. I don't care what your stocks are." And then you think to yourself, "What's a 401k? I'm gonna look that up." Personal finance is often about making short-term sacrifices for long-term gain. By saving a little bit each year, you'll be able to set yourself up for a dignified retirement. First, compound interest is the shit, and here's why. So you have a lot of money, like you have $10,000, and then over the course of a year, that money is making money because you're investing it into stocks and stuff. And then that money, you have more money at the end of the year, so then the next year you're making money on top of that money, and then that money's making even more money, and then the next year you're making even more money. I'm just gonna do a quick illustration so it's not as confusing. Say you put $10,000 into a 401k, receiving a 10% annual return at the age of 20. If you never touch that money until you turn 70 years old, you'll have over $1.1 million in the bank. All that simply from putting away $10,000. Use a compound interest calculator online to see how much you could retire with based on your yearly savings. All right, so for me personally, I invest at Vanguard, vanguard.com. I invest primarily in low-cost mutual funds, about 90% stocks, 10% bonds. Now, I chose this fund because it's essentially a snapshot of the U.S. economy. So since 1923, when the S&P started, it has produced a return of around 10 to 12%. And that's basically what this fund is giving me. Now, that's over the long run. We're not talking about a 5-year period. So when you invest in the long run, you're not checking your Vanguard account every day, every other day. You're putting your money in, you're making sure that you have everything set, and then you're checking it maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year, but you're not stressing out every time that the stock market's shaky. When 2008 hit, a lot of people lost money. But if you're investing in the long term, that's not gonna matter at all, because in 30 years, you're gonna eventually make your money back. Now, there are many, many variables that will factor into your own investment strategy, like your age, your income, how much money you'll think you'll need when you retire, how much risk you're willing to tolerate. Please do your research before investing. I'm not your financial manager, investor, or fiduciary. Read up and make a decision based on your life circumstances. This is not a definitive blueprint. If you're a freelancer and you can't stomach that much risk, or you feel safer if you had $5,000 emergency fund from the very beginning, then do that. Or maybe you can actually handle the extra risk and you decide, I don't want to build 6 months of runway. I want to actually start investing in my future and my retirement right now. Then do that. I personally like the idea of paying off my debt first and then moving to my retirement.
Even one of the investment apps that I always see recommended is Acorn and Webull. I haven't gone too deep into it myself, but I just know those ones are at least the beginner friendly if you know absolutely nothing about investing and stuff like that.
To my retirement fund. But for a lot of people, if you're not able to pay off your debt that quickly, you may want to actually start your retirement fund now, especially if you have a 401k match with your company, because then you're going to be able to take advantage of the compound interest. I wouldn't have been able to pay off my debt if it wasn't for reading books like Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover or Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. I recommend reading one personal finance book a year or listen to one of 100 podcasts on the topic. This will help you reset your priorities every year, as we can sometimes get distracted by shiny objects. Once you've got a solid emergency fund, pay off your debt, padded your bank account with runway, and you've got your retirement fund started, you're on your way to financial freedom. And it won't take finishing your retirement fund to finally realize that having money is not everything.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Hey man, all I'm saying, fam, especially if you like, I talk about addiction a lot on this channel, right? So ask yourself, how much money are you spending on alcohol in a given year, given month, given week? How much money are you spending on marijuana, edibles, stuff like that? All I'm saying is use everything in proportion. The quote I always hold true for my channel and just in general is, too much of any good thing is good for nothing. It's the abuse of things, not necessarily the use of them, which makes them bad or not as pleasurable, not as good, right? So calculate how much money are you spending on alcohol in a given week, marijuana, or any of these other, coffee, you know? Why do you need coffee every single day? And besides, when you use these things more than you are required, the impact that they have on your body, the positive impact, starts diminishing because your body gets used to it, right? So again, links in the description for other addiction related videos and some other more personal finance, you know, Millionaire to be reacts. So y'all will go on this journey with me together as we go to the top of financial literacy, which they didn't teach us in school enough. All right, so God bless, much love, peace, and joy. Namaste. And always remember, if it doesn't feed you, do not water it. I'm gonna see y'all in the next video. Deuces.
Looking like centerfold. Told me you different, baby, no acting. Haven't you heard of karma?
No jokes, I'm coming through.